1 second, it's processing.
All that
Hello!
hype.
We have myself, your regular host Chris here, and we have my lovely fiance Lexie. Uh, Eventually joining us is going to be Wyatt Claypool from the National Telegraph. He's not here yet. He was going to call in later into the show, and eventually he'll be here. But no further ado, it is election night in Manitoba. Polls are going to be closing just soon, so we're not going to have too much to see quite yet, because obviously we don't have polls in right away. People don't count that fast. But
Yeah, so we get to sit here and fill the time in the meantime.
yes, I am just going to start off here by. How do I. 1 second. I need to fix something. Bear with me. You think
No
I could have been
problem.
more prepared for this, but why would I be prepared?
It's not like we were sitting here for 10 minutes.
No, no, we don't. Okay, here we go. I got it now. So I have an update here for the forecast for the election here. So naturally, what always happens when I make a forecast on a Monday going into an election is I have a pre-recorded format. And then pollsters always put out new polls after I make my pre-recorded video. And these polls dramatically change the election results. So I have an updated map here that actually has the details of the new projection. As you can see, instead of being a narrow PC loss, 26 to 29, it's now a more substantial loss of 24 to 30. Most of Winnipeg going Liberal or NDP, though the PC still managed to hold on in rural parts of Manitoba, which is something we should expect here. That seems to be what happens these days and seems to be what the political alignment's going to.
Hmm. So, now this might just be me not understanding how Manitoba works, but what's up with the big white gaps in the middle of the map?
Those are lakes.
Really?
Manitoba has some very large lakes.
Are those not Great Lakes category?
Um, Maybe. I don't actually know how large they are in surface area, but they're fairly substantial lakes.
Like, I know they're not the Great Lakes because there's only the Great Lakes in the Great Lakes area, but like they should be because they're massive. Holy crap! That's
Now,
my valuable contribution to this stream.
now we're going to cut over here to the CBC map here. I'm using this just because it's with the amount of resources I have. I've determined after last year, it's too annoying to make my own maps of the forecasts live. I would probably need like 2 or 3 people to do that, and I don't have manpower. I have me power. So we don't have time for that. But no, there's at least Tom Pierce. I don't think there's any exit polls yet, but I'll keep an eye out to the best of my abilities. Again, that would be something that'd be nice to have teams for to look at. But teams, this is too small of an operation for teams.
Dang it! I didn't get to make a joke about manpower. I was yawning.
But yeah, so
But I'd be no help either. I don't know what I'm looking at.
this is the map of the Manitoba ridings here, right? And well, the Winnipeg ridings, and this is the ones that are going to matter because it's unlikely, if we zoom out here, that the rural Manitoba parts are going to matter too much. Pretty much just Dauphin, Selkirk, and to a lesser extent Thompson, or sorry, Brandon East over here. Those are the only 3 rural ones that are even remotely in play, and even those are not that in play. So we have more this look in Winnipeg, and it's pretty much South Winnipeg, right here, roughly, that matters. Maybe a bit of East Winnipeg, but there's not actually that many ridings in play right now. And unfortunately for the PCs in Manitoba, the NDP has a decisive, firm lead in Winnipeg itself going into the election here.
So, now, as the uneducated member of the audience, this is a provincial election,
Yes.
and they are selecting a premier?
Yes.
Alright. And so I saw the map, but I usually tend to think that the bigger areas of color win, but I know that's not how this works. So who are you projecting as the winner?
NDP. They're
Okay.
looking like they're... If all goes according to projection, as we have here, as it pops up here, it should be 30 to 24. NDP seats to PC seats. And for those sitting at home, there is 57 total seats in play. Well,
And
in
let's
play
just
is the
have-
wrong term. On the board.
Let's just have a moment of silence for Manitoba and their soon-to-be NDP government. That's a shame.
Yes. For Manitoba...
Shout out to the fact that the Liberals have no presence, though. That's kind of funny.
Well, all the provincial Liberal parties are basically dying at this point, right? There's not many of them
How could
left.
they not be?
Even out east, where they stuck on a bit longer, the Nova Scotia Liberals aren't doing so hot. New Brunswick Liberals are pretty much just buoyed by the fact that the French vote for them on, like, ethnic lines. PEI, they're pretty much dead. Ontario, looks like they're about to die, so... Provincial Liberals aren't doing so hot.
R.I.P.
In Manitoba, they're basically just alive because there's a couple of incumbents in the city of Winnipeg itself that are quite popular locally. Not province-wide, but like in their community, they're popular, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
When the incumbent for Riverview Heights eventually decides to retire, that's probably going to go NDP, and then it'll be gone forever for the Liberals at the rate things are going.
Now, it does seem fairly close between the PCs and the NDP, though. Do you think that there's a chance that there might be a toss-up here and that the PC could take it?
Probably not. Now, it's not impossible. There has been poll misses before, and our home Nova Scotia had a big poll miss in 21. So it does happen. But it seems very unlikely, because normally when you have a big poll miss like this, if one were to happen, it's either because there's not a lot of polls, or the polls are chaotic. There's a sign of this coming. It's not just out of the blue, out of nowhere. Suddenly there is a poll miss. Because in Nova Scotia a couple of years ago, 2021, we had like 3 or 4 polls, and that's about it. So, and there's very few polls near the end of the election. Here, we've had only 9 polls in Manitoba, so it's not the most in the world, but we have had 3 in the last few days, and they all have the same or similar numbers. So it would be a very big miss for 3 different pollsters to be wrong.
How exciting. Well, that's a shame that the NDP are taking it, but that's what you get with one major urban center.
Yeah, the PC campaign has basically been plagued by lack of focus.
Sorry, hang on. Look at the glasses on this chick on CBC.
Whoop, we're gonna pop over. Oh, I might have missed it.
Oh no. Oh, I hope they go back to her. I'm gonna keep an eye out for it, but we can probably stay over there for now because we know what the map looks like. But I'm sorry, I completely interrupted you.
Let me know, by the way, chat, if the volume for CBC is at an appropriate level. Sometimes they're quite interesting to hear too. And by interesting, I mean they say funny things, and not in a good way.
Oh, I should probably turn them on.
But we're going to go back to look at this map. What was I saying?
You were talking about polling misses and how the PC campaign has...
Oh, yes.
You're about to tell me about the PC campaign, and then I interrupted you.
So, the general gist of the PC campaign has it's been... I touched on this in my last video, but I'm not sure how many people here saw that video. Maybe you all did. Maybe you're all very good viewers of the channel and watch all my videos. Okay, apparently the CBC is quite quiet. I turned up a little bit. But they've run a very, very poor campaign. They haven't focused on any particular issues. and the issues that they do talk about are barely relevant to the average voter. Because the thing you have to keep in mind always with elections is the average Joe Blow voter mostly cares about things like healthcare, the economy, inflation, cost of living, stuff like that, right? Sometimes education. They're not that focused on things like searching a landfill for dead bodies. And if you take an approach that we're not going to do that, that's not a great position.
I'm sorry, can we back up a second? Was that a metaphor, or was there a landfill dead body situation in Manitoba that I didn't hear about?
Yes.
What?
There's a serial killer that they think dumped 2 bodies of 2 Indigenous women in a landfill.
What?
Yeah.
There's a current active serial killer? Or like 50 years ago kind of serial killer?
I think it's recent. I'm not 100% certain. I haven't followed too much.
An active serial killer in Manitoba, and I haven't heard about it.
Yes.
The fuck? How is that not? I'm sorry. That seems like a campaign. I'm sorry. I seem to be, normally that kind of thing comes down to me through the law school pipelines, but I don't know, man.
We have a request
Okay.
for Jeb here, so we're
Hold
gonna bring him back. Oh, Jeb's poop.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Jared, for reminding us about Jeb. Do you have Jeb on your setup?
We have.
Do you have Jeb?
Yes, we have super
Okay.
extendy arms, Jeb.
Extendy arms, Jeb. Oh, he's not on the. He's not over the video. You got. There we go.
I forgot about Jeb. Good old
You
Jeb.
had the wrong Jeb. Hi, Hacksaws. I just learned that there's a serial killer in Manitoba, so I'm doing less good than I was.
Well, it's been probably not great for the Manitobans affected. I would not recommend getting serial killed or killed at all. It's bad. But the big issue with that, though, is most people are going to be like, wow, someone got murdered and was dumped in a landfill? Maybe we should search for it and get their bodies out.
Why is that an issue? Why are the police not searching for this?
I don't know. All I know is that
What the fuck is going on in Manitoba?
all I know is the PCs made a big campaign about not searching it, and it's
Wait, like they don't want to search for the
they
bodies?
don't want to search for the bodies.
That's a bad look.
They were
a bad
stumping.
look.
They were stumping hard on that too.
That's really weird.
It
That's
wa-
weird. I mean,
Yeah.
if it was like 50 years ago, I would get it. But if this was recent, then I think you should search the landfill for the bodies. Is it
Yeah.
like a landfill that something's been built on top of? I
No.
need to find out about this.
My understanding is the opposition to searching it is it's just gonna cost money, too much money.
That PC. That's such a PC position. Oh my gosh, I hate everybody involved in this situation.
Allegedly, it's gonna cost $184 million, but that seems very, very high.
2022.
According to Not Applicable 11 in chat, the serial killer was charged last year in December.
Yeah. Jeremy Skibicki. Check out the framing of this. Charged for the murders of 4 Indigenous Canadian women. No mention of the nationality of the serial killer, but I think we can guess. But besides the point, you should probably check where those bodies are. I think those women deserve to have their bodies buried properly. That's kind of fucking weird that that's something that they're arguing about.
Yeah, it wasn't a great campaign thing to stump
That's a
on.
terrible campaign. I don't care who you are. How do you argue about that? Like, now we're just not gonna search for these missing people. Like these bodies that we know where they are, we're just not gonna look for them. Like, what the fuck kind of argument is that? That is ridiculous.
Yep. And they ran front page newspaper ads about not searching. So you can see now, Lex, what I mean, that this is not a very well run campaign. And on top of that, they didn't really touch on
For health and safety reasons, the answer on the landfill dig just has to be no. Is that true? I feel like there are like forensic searching people that do this, like from the RCMP.
My understanding is Ontario did something like this in recent days.
There has got to be
Or
like
recent
a
years.
federal police force that does this. Oh, Glasses Chick is back.
Those are some glasses.
Those are some glasses, all right.
Tell me, as the glasses expert, what is your opinions on her glasses?
Oh, I gotta go to your stream so I can see her face front on again. They're too big, and it's an ugly frame.
Well, that was our digression into glasses criticism.
There's not like that much technically wrong with them, except for that they're a little too big and that they're ugly. Okay, Quinn has a good question. Hi guys, hi Quinn. Winnipeg seems like the only city that's become more left-wing in recent years, at least federally. Why do you think that is?
So, I don't think Winnipeg is the only city that has gotten more left-wing. I think it's just the only city that has gotten noticeably left-wing. And the reason why I say noticeably there, and this is a very important distinction, is, for example, Vancouver, I would argue, has gotten more left-wing. But you don't really notice it that much federally because it's going from liberal to NDP, or liberal to green. Same thing with, say, Halifax. I think it's gotten more left-wing, but it's went from liberal to NDP. So you don't actually really notice that change that much because it's small. It's just two left-wing parties changing who has it from one more centrist left-wing party to one that is more firmly left-wing. But Manitoba...
So you could otherwise categorize that as like the Liberals kind of doing the tablecloth trick out from underneath their voters, and then they just end up NDP. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sort of. It's more like voters are just in like the modern political spectrum is moving such a way that deep, very urban areas are becoming more left-wing. It's just not as obvious in most of Canada because all of these urban ridings are already controlled by left-wing parties. The parties themselves are becoming more left-wing as well.
But in Vancouver, more seats will undoubtedly be blue in the next federal election.
Yes.
I think that probably has to do with the fact that Vancouver, much like Halifax, is a very serious victim of Liberal policies. Probably more so than other cities.
Yes, I think in this particular case of this next election, Vancouver is definitely going to have a sudden, sharp swing back to the right. And I don't think that's because the city has decided to move more right-wing than it was before. It's very, very likely the case that a lot of people who were right-leaning in Vancouver pre-Poilievre under O'Toole or under Scheer just didn't vote because they didn't care to vote. They weren't inspired to vote for.
This is a good question. Why does Manitoba have 57 seats? I don't actually know that either.
I have no idea. That's just the number they decided was the appropriate number.
Do we have like a fancy way of determining that, the way the Americans do, or do we just kind of throw a number at you and that here you go?
We just pick numbers. Let's see, do we have...
Winnipeg has always been terrible.
Well, one of the things that does make Winnipeg... We have some maps here. Let's see. I don't think any... Most of these have very low polls reporting in, so not much to say here so far.
The Liberals couldn't make it worse if they tried. Is that why they're not going right-wing? They just can't make it any worse, so they're just sticking where they are. That's a good strategy, or that's a good theory, excuse me.
The big thing why Winnipeg itself tends to be more left-wing than a lot of the other cities in the prairies is Manitoba's kind of poor. It's like Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. Like, it's just kind of a poor province, and Winnipeg's average incomes are substantially lower than Manitoba's prairie brothers of Saskatchewan and Alberta. And generally speaking, more our poorer people tend to vote more left-wing on economics. That's just how it be. They want those government dollars.
In Kirkfield Park, another riding we're watching carefully.
Yeah,
Because
so
I kind of wasn't listening. I just need to find this picture. No, you keep talking. I'm sorry.
And this is significant, Janet. This is a replay of the
Oops, sorry about that.
by-election of the
So yeah,
state
we're just looking at.
several months ago.
This is not the best
Ryan, a
website.
prominent member of the
CBC.
cabinet, who's might be,
Oh,
the
CBC.
next leader of the Conservative Party if
Their map is nice. It's just for some reason they make it too small on the website page. It's really annoying.
just a narrow margin during the by-election. So it's a rematch
But yeah,
on
so
par with
that's kind of where we are looking at in Manitoba. It's looking like it's going to be NDP, but we will see. And I will bring this back up here because it'll be a bit easier. For those wondering, it's not impossible for the PCs to win. I just think it's extremely unlikely. So their path to victory is, I can't think of the names of all these ridings off the top of my head, but they win
reporting. But what's really shocking is
these ridings here that I'm hovering my mouse over, or my cursor over.
I grew up in this riding, and I've never seen the NDP.
There's about 6 of them. There's 7 of them. Those are the ridings they need to win on the outskirts of Winnipeg. If they don't win those, they're toast. Right? That's the only path to victory, because we're talking about, again, 57 seats, and they need to gain pretty much 6 seats to win, because 29 is majority, but you probably want 30, or else it's not really a meaningful vote win here. So the things to look out for are things like Sign River here. If the PCs can keep Sign River, which I guess 1 out of 14 polls they are winning it, but that's irrelevant, then that's good for them. If they can't do that, well, they're toast.
That's good.
I'm satisfied with the numbers. I mean, had the PCs lower, we've already climbed up to 7.
Yeah, MJ or Schneider. Winnipeg is also much more multi-ethnic, and that does cause a lot of differences in the politics. It makes it a lot easier for left-wing parties to play racial issues or identity issues, which generally advantages them. And the other big factor that affects Winnipeg specifically is for its wealth level, it's surprisingly high university educated, and poor university educated people are generally speaking the most left-wing. Though I will stress, I said this before, and I'll say it again, university education in and of itself doesn't make you left-wing. It's just a nice correlative factor, because most people who are left-wing have went to university. But that doesn't...
Yeah, because you don't seem to change very much once you're in university, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And you certainly... I don't know, I've never heard of anybody that started out right-wing in university and came out left-wing. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, usually by the time you're 19 or 20 and you go to university, as long as you actually had a worldview, you're probably going to keep that worldview through university.
Mm-hmm. If you didn't have a worldview going in, you're going to be turned into a leftist, though, because that's the only thing you're going to hear about. Or you might just leave without a worldview as well, because you weren't really paying much attention, which is fair enough, honestly.
You could definitely leave university without paying any attention.
Oh, 100%. Easy. Easy.
Okay, we're gonna zoom in here. Do we have... Okay, 2 out of 17 polls in River Heights. Gerard's only winning by 15 votes. Oh, I guess he's toast. He's done. I'm just kidding. He's gonna win that one.
Oh, I don't know anything about Irish politics, so I really don't know how it works over there. But that's interesting. Because, yeah, I know, like, Ireland and Scotland and maybe it's just those two, but nationalism over there is, like, a completely different animal than it is in North America, so I don't even know what that... I don't know what to do with that, man.
Yeah.
I moved right when I went to uni. But not by uni, but while we're watching right-wing YouTube. You can also be, like, kind of low-key, I don't want to say radicalized, but, like, definitely made firmer in your beliefs just by the fact that people are attacking you all the time, and it just makes you stubborn, you know? And
Yeah.
it gives you a lot of practice in defending yourself, too.
I
It
will
makes you a good apologist for whatever your ideology is.
I will say as well that your story, particularly of being moved right by right-wing YouTube, is very normal.
Yeah.
It seems that the social media platform, and YouTube's a social media platform, that is used the most by someone dramatically affects their worldview based on basically what content and what news they see. And in YouTube, you're going to see a lot of right-wing podcasters because podcasting is an area that the right generally dominates. It's not that the left can't podcast, it's just they don't. Don't really know why, but it is what it is. You could probably...
Well, it's because they're not going to talk at length about their ideas because they don't have that much.
Possibly.
They can't go that long. Now, that's an uncharitable opinion, but that's okay. Yeah, actually, we have some... I mean, I feel like pretty much everybody nowadays, if they're gonna... If they didn't have, like, right-wing family, they probably turned right-wing from social media, because I don't know where else you would get it from. But, isn't your dad undergoing, like, a YouTube right-wing radicalization right now?
Yes, indeed. He used to just watch regular, like, TV, but then he ran out of regular TV that he wanted to watch because everything sucked. So then he hooked up his smart TV to YouTube and started watching stuff on YouTube because he ran out of things worth watching, right? And then, naturally, what happens when you start watching things on YouTube, and my dad's the kind of guy who like watch like military history shows or stuff like that, right?
Chris takes very much after his father. So.
You start watching that on YouTube, and you just click videos that look interesting in your feed, you are bound to end up on the Daily Wire these days. That's just how it happens. But I'm gonna mute
Hello, Dylan.
CTV or CBC here because they're just yammering about early poll results and writings, and I don't think it's really worth the airtime. Hello, Dylan.
Who did he end up watching?
My dad? He watches one of the chicks from the PragerU a lot. I can't think of her name. For some, not particularly sure why. And Matt Walsh, he watches
Matt Walsh. That's right. Oh, my guy. Sorry. I'm really distracted by candidate Abicon.
Yeah, not applicable 11. There are left-wing YouTubers, but my point I was getting at is there's, let's say, a half dozen to maybe a dozen left-wing podcasts on YouTube, and there's probably 20 times that for conservative podcasts. You can probably find over 100 Canadian podcasts of about my size on YouTube that are right-leaning. And I don't know if you could find a single one that's left-leaning. They might exist. I'm not saying they don't. I just haven't heard or seen of any. And I've seen a lot of small right-wing ones. A lot. And I've looked. Maybe not exhaustively, but I've looked. Just to go back to the selection, to circle back for a second here, to make sure we're staying on topic somewhat. There's not a lot of polls in, so this is pretty preliminary, but not entirely unexpected, because we don't have a lot of the polls in for the rural precincts here, so this 10-point lead could be very legit, because, again, a lot of these haven't reported. But, again, we're very, very early. We have, like, 20,000 votes in, so. Keystone in Turtle Mountain. Where the heck is the Turtle Mountain? Oh, here we go.
So, I had to take a quick break to meme the shit out of candidate Abicon.
Huh. Good polls results for them so far, but it's 2 out of 57, so not super meaningful yet. But if that does finish a second place, that would be surprising. Not unheard of, not impossible. A bit unlikely for now, but we'll see as time goes on. But again, the main thing to watch here is really city itself. That's where the places matter. And let's just close. Again, the polls aren't in a lot here, so we're gonna.
Hang on. Who are they interviewing here on CBC?
Things
They're just
relating
interviewing
to parental rights, and a few
people.
of those things just don't really resonate with me. Like they talk about.
Does this look like a guy?
To see what's in the curriculum. The curriculum's available online if you ever want to look at it, and that's just.
Oh,
something
he's
where I wanna see
arguing
where you
against
draw the line
parental
with
rights,
it,
like a.
because there's certain issues right now that are coming up with gender identity and things, and I think
It's like,
that.
oh, the
if we
curriculum's
don't,
available online.
Like, it almost feels like a thing of where does it end?
Dylan, what's your truth or dare? I'll take one. As long as the dare's not anything that's like particularly anti or YouTube censor unfriendly.
Yeah, really. How do you stream this? Screen capture.
Yeah, I have
It's very low tech.
I have a screen capture run. I'm running OBS in the background, and I have just it all set up through there. So I record my videos too. Very low tech here.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised by that, considering I work in software. But the thing you should remember is software developers are not IT. I know nothing about it.
Yeah, if you need help with your computer, don't ask a software developer.
Well, okay. Very low stakes there, but
I only take shoutouts for people that are secretly running like Nazi websites, just like Justin Trudeau.
that is definitely not Dylan EDU. But yeah, I'll give you a shout out. Hey everybody, if you want to
Sorry,
watch
Dylan.
another small Canadian political YouTuber, more focused on less on maps and data and more on like process and stuff. Billy, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if I'm inaccurate. You should check out Dylan EDU. Not bad. Up and coming dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is an actual. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just.
You're,
I
tro-
didn't know this was someone who actually made videos.
You're trolling a guy.
Ah, my statement still stands. I only take shoutouts.
Hey, be careful. You get put into Twitter jail forever like that. Like poor Brian.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hashtag build back Brian, everybody.
Build
If you're
back, Brian.
if you're ever on Twitter. Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Not Musk himself, sorry. Some left-winger who was mad that Brian was anti-Trudeau reported him.
Oh, Dylan, you got good-looking thumbnails. Very nice.
And then the report turned into a ban. And now we no longer have Too Close to Call. It's a shame.
10 out of 10 thumbnails, Dylan.
Now let's see. We still don't have a lot of votes in, so there's really not
Bill
much to say.
C11 loves you, Chris. Ah, shit. Which one is that again? Is that the censorship one with the Canadian news sources?
I don't remember. There's so many bills these days. I think C18's the censorship one, but there could be others.
I know who not to ask about computers. Yeah, definitely. Oh, wow. Jeez, the election's almost over. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say it's almost over, but I don't think it's ever going to be a particularly long election. I was not planning on this stream being particularly long, but we will see.
Trudeau's about to invade Poland.
What?
Evie says Trudeau's about to invade Poland.
What has happened there? I must have missed something.
Probably because he's cheering on the SS. Oh, Denny, thank you so much for the super chat.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, that's a cool sticker. I didn't know you could put stickers in super chats.
Yeah. Yeah, Jared, I think you're not entirely wrong. This is looking not great. I mean, it was never looking great going into this night. But not to cast false hope, it is early. Like, you look at something like Brandon East here, and we only have 2 of 26 precincts and only a 4-point lead, or vote lead. So right now really isn't worth saying that much. But it is what it is. I'm not expecting a win for the PCs. I'm expecting a win for the NDP. Well, little do we know, actually, what's going to happen is we're going to have an 11th hour Liberal Party rebound, and we're going to get them to have all of Winnipeg. It's going to be deep red. That's what we're going to see. We're going to go pop back. Oh, no, they're just talking about particular ridings.
Yeah.
Okay, chat. This is an important question for y'all. Do you guys get anything out of when election night coverages talk about particular candidates and particular ridings? I personally don't.
I feel
but
like this
let me know.
coverage is aimed at the people who live in those ridings.
Possibly. What did you say, babe?
Oh, they were covering Flin Flon.
Oh.
And I thought that was funny.
Flin Flon has a fun name.
Oh, shout out to CBC. Really making sure to put in there that she's of Chinese descent, because that's really important, I guess, to them. Guys, look, we're electing someone of Chinese descent. We're not racist, we promise. Don't listen to the Prime Minister.
First person
Who's the person of Chinese descent? Was it
Someone Chen.
was it an NDP or PC or?
It was an NDP.
Okay, I find that even funnier. Like shouting out like generic minority or
Well, it
particular
was in a
minority.
riding where none of the people running were white people, so I don't know why it was important anyway.
Well, especially considering the leader of the NDP is already indigenous. Like, what? You think they wouldn't feel the? Hmm?
We have 20 seats
Is she?
yet.
He? Whoever?
Yeah, Wab Canoe. Yeah.
I have not been keeping up with the times.
How dare you not follow the Manitoba election in great detail?
I personally get a lot of value for it here in Canada, but it's also because I'm new here, so it helps me learn about who's in federal and provincial politics. Oh.
That's
I don't know
fair.
how you keep track of it all.
That's fair, Tom.
I'm I'm engaged to Chris, and I still can't keep up with it.
Maybe one day when I have enough funding and enough people, we'll do that on one of these streams, or not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the formats go.
Do what?
Talk about particular ridings in great detail.
Wow.
Maybe.
With all 45 people that live there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumping in here. Okay. They're slow at counting.
Yeah,
we had
they
the
probably won't
exact
call it
we
soon.
had the exact same problem in Alberta. For some reason, people are just so slow at counting.
It seems like a really quick election. Permanent residence process now. Oh, yeah.
Well,
That would be important, yeah.
they're
I
the
probably couldn't pass the permanent resident test.
the NDP
Especially
are leading in 24 seats, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've quote unquote won 24 seats because their leads aren't that significant yet. No, they're probably gonna win though.
What comes up on the Canadian permanent resident test? Could
I didn't know there
encourage
was a
this with my law
test for
school?
permanent residence, actually. I thought it was just a test
there's
for citizenship.
There's an English test. But I think you speak English, so you're good.
Some of the U.S. states are hilariously bad at counting. Like, not Winnipeg. Arizona and Nevada
Yeah, Arizona, I was gonna say.
are awful at counting. They're so hilariously bad. And then you have places like Florida that counted like 30 million ballots in a few hours.
Well, I mean, you can count them awfully quick if you don't mind what they say. It
Imagine-
just takes a while when you're rewriting them.
I know what you when you say, Tom. They ask you how good your English and French is, but I'm just picturing now that the requirements to become a permanent resident in Canada is you have to have flawless English and French.
Yeah.
Just a wildly
I'm sure with
comical
just your
standard.
English, you'll be okay. If you're not fluent in both languages, you're getting out.
At the same token, though, I don't. Is the standard actually even that high? I'm pretty sure I've met people who have permanent residency
It
who
certainly
barely.
can't be, because the people that I talk to at Tim Hortons are not meeting it.
They may not be permanent residents.
No, they probably aren't. They're probably on student visas.
They're probably from a got sucked in here by a diploma mill and are being abused or exploited.
Well, there's never the same set of people every week, so maybe you're right. There's something fishy going on in the Tim Hortons around here. How to reduce Canadian immigration to 0. Make them all speak English and French. Also kick everybody else out who lives here.
The only
the
people allowed to
politicians
live in
remain.
Canada are from not Manitoba. I don't know why I keep saying
Brunswick.
it. Are from New Brunswick and Montreal.
A bunch of the people in Quebec City were pretty good.
That's true. Some of them did speak English and
Guys,
French.
Quebec City is amazing. I'm starting to change my mind about the French.
Really?
I know.
That's pretty spicy right there. You changing
I
your mind about the
know.
French?
I know. My opinion on the British is still pretty solid, though.
Yeah.
Canada's just Montreal, Gatineau, and some parts of Ottawa.
If
No,
you
they
ever-
got New Brunswick, too. In New Brunswick. You got some parts in Nova Scotia, close to New Brunswick.
If you guys are ever going to go on a vacation inside Canada itself, I recommend Quebec City. It's really nice. If you don't,
know.
they will usually speak English as long as you're
Yeah,
not
they're
in the
good.
suburbs. There's cool things to see.
It
Worth
feels like you're in a different country. Straight up.
it does. It does feel like a different country.
It's clean, which is a big bonus coming from Halifax. It's clean, there's no homeless people. It seems safe. Everything's beautiful and well kept up. It's not falling apart. I didn't realize how grimy Halifax was until I got back.
Ooh, that's a bold
New
take.
Brunswick is the best province on the East Coast. Found the New Brunswicker.
Do you know who you do you know who's running this stream here?
Now, obviously Nova Scotia's the best, but you shouldn't come here because it's nothing but empty coal mines.
Yes. Nova Scotia, best province,
Who's
but
winning?
not for
The,
anyone else.
The NDP is winning. Payo time.
Yes, the NDP is firmly winning, and if we just bring back up my own
If it
projection,
means... Sorry, I just seen Tom say if it means they kick out Toronto, I think Alberta would vote for it. I would vote for that. I would still kind of vote for... Oh, look, we found the one Liberal that's winning. It's Cindy Lamoureux. Lamoureux? How do you pronounce that? I should know this.
I think it's Lamoureux.
Okay. He said Lamoureux. I'm trying to think of our friend's name.
It's
But,
Lamoureux.
I don't know if he pronounces it right, so, like...
I don't know. There is actually parts
Okay,
of
can
Cape
we
Breton.
appreciate for a second that the Liberal is winning her race, being the only white chick running, and that's just funny to me?
Boniface, but St. Boniface
That's
I mean, she is the incumbent.
Yeah, but it's still funny, 'cause she's a Liberal. She cares about those things.
Yes.
I live in Nova Scotia and I love it, near Amherst, underrated area. We know some people in Amherst.
Amherst is pretty
I don't
cool.
know much about Amherst, though. You know about Amherst.
My grandfather lives there.
One of the major
Lives-
arteries to
well,
St.
some of the year.
Boniface.
Yeah, some of the year.
But Tom,
There's a lot
there
of really
is,
nice places.
I believe, there are places in Cape Breton you can go to near Sydney where you can go on mine tours of coal mines. I didn't get a chance to go through there last time I was in Sydney, but I would actually do it at some point. Sounds kind of neat.
That actually sounds... Okay, that sounds conceptually cool, but you will not get me to go down there. It won't happen.
What
What if I blindfold you and throw you down the mine shaft?
Not happening. I'm not going into a godforsaken hole in the ground just so I can drown like those kids in Thailand. As a real Alberta patriot, I'm not allowed to leave until I've seen every small town in Alberta. You'll be there for a while.
There's a lot of small towns in Alberta.
That's what I like about Manitoba. It's so terrible no one moves here. Dude, I wish that was the case in Nova Scotia right now. Maybe I could afford a house.
I mean, we can afford a house. That's not directly the problem. We can't afford a
could have
house.
afforded-
We can't afford a house in
could have-
Halifax. That's
Yeah.
the correct statement.
If we were buying a house 5 years ago, we could have afforded like twice as much house.
Yeah. Jared, to answer
Stay low.
your question, The math says the PCs hold Brandon. I don't know what to tell you. I run the math. Maybe the math is wrong, but I run the math. And I mean, it's 3 out of 26, and they only have a 75 vote lead for the NDP, so...
Okay. Sorry. Evie, I see that you're joking, but I'm serious. Remove the college-educated vote. You're saying, Chris?
I wasn't saying much. Overall,
Excuse me.
as more votes get in, more precincts report, the margin is approaching what I expected the margin to be. So if we bring back over this, whoa, it's technical issues. You can see here, I'm expecting this to be the result. This is the 2019 results here. So we'll see where that goes. This is really trippy on my end because I can see both myself recording and doing what I'm doing, and I can also see the stream playback. And the stream playback is just confusing me because there's a delay, obviously, in the stream. That's how streams work. And that's just confusing the heck out of me.
Look into Jeb's eyes.
Yes.
Don't look at the rest of the screen. Look at his stendo arm.
So, we are expecting overall it to be pretty close. Well, not pretty close. Brandon to be pretty close. I'll bring up raw data. We're not going to show raw data live because that's going to be boring as all heck. Unless you guys want a number podcast.
I'm seeing numbers on the screen.
Don't worry about it.
These are the exciting numbers. They have colors.
Numbers are fake.
Jeb landslide.
Look, one day the Jeb landslide will happen.
Chris doesn't have the OG Jeb, so we have Stendo Jeb instead. Because OG Jeb is set up on my PC. Fun fact about the stream, there's two stream setups on 2 different PCs. And one has Stendo Jeb, and one has real Jeb.
You know, Tom,
And that's how you know whose PC we're streaming
but before this stream, I was remarking to Lexie that I needed to have more monitors. I have 2, one subpar, but an old, but I was like, I needed more.
Yeah.
I needed more monitors. I needed a third one.
Understand that there's a story behind this, because he recently told me that one of his monitors is breaking, but I forgot that it was one of his work monitors and not one of his recreational monitors.
No, it is the
I thought it was
recreational
stuck
monitor.
with- Did you have 3 before?
No,
I thought that your monitor was broken.
I only have 2 monitors. I said I need 3.
Yeah, but I thought that you were down to 1 because one of them was broken.
No, it's mostly broken.
Oh. Yeah, I thought you were down to 1, so I was like, oh yeah, you need the 2 monitors set up, and he was like, no, I need a third one.
That's still
You're
true,
gonna
though.
be putting them vertical soon enough, like a real nerd. You're gonna buy an ultra wide and put it vertical. I've seen people do that.
I really want to get one of the setups they have at work.
Jeb
end
said,
quotes.
please clap. I felt that on a spiritual level. Don't remind me of that. I will actually cry. I can't even laugh at people anymore. I just get sad. As a Texan, I have no horse in this race in a random rural province in Western Canada. Well, Manitoba's kind of Texas-y.
See, actually, your stake as a Manitoban, not a Manitoban, as a Texan, is not who's going to win this election. But your stake is supporting your favorite political YouTuber.
Yes, that's true. Big stakes. We need to get Jeb Bush on stream.
Maybe one day.
As an Australian, I have no reason. Oh, you're Australian? Oh, so this is like the morning for you. Good morning.
My favorite scenario going into 2025 in Canada is I really want to see Blanchette form official opposition. I don't think it's going to happen by any means, but it would be so funny.
You should pull up that Blanchette picture I sent you.
Where is it?
It's titled Eves, wherever it is.
Well, okay, you talk to them while I find where this was.
Here, I'll send it to you.
Okay. So yeah, just to go.
This is the Blanchette version of Jeb.
Well, she finds that, I will just.
Oh, I sent it to you. It's out.
You found that fast.
Because I was looking at it beforehand. If you don't have a monitor for browser, gaming, Discord, and a wild card, then you're not doing it right.
I have a
Dave.
monitor for browser and gaming, just not for Discord yet.
Hannah, when does the nervousness set in?
Oh, Denny, you were at the Conservative conference. So were we.
But of course,
We have crossed paths and not even realized.
So, is that feeling creeping in yet, or are we
Nova Scotia Sydney was founded in 1758. We've been to Sydney. Mr. Speaker, it seems that the government has proposed an issue that affects BC, therefore we will abstain and not care.
that we're looking at, and I am still watching those closely during these early days.
Well, as soon as I came out of my mouth.
Oh yes, okay. Is this the election where Jagmeet is at risk of losing his seat?
No, that's federal.
Oh, dang it.
The Jagmeet did have the risk of causing Canoe to lose, but Canoe turned out to be too effective.
Canoe?
Canoe. Okay.
Tell me who that is?
Canoe? That's the leader of NDP.
Oh,
'Kay.
This is how much I pay attention to the NDP.
Can everyone see the glorious Blanchette winning meme? That's from an old post of mine, Lamel.
Right now at the Manitoba map, but I want to zoom in particular here in Winnipeg because as we've mentioned,
The screen real estate's just getting worse. I should make a transparent version of that where we can have Jeb, but it's Eve's.
Some of the ridings here in Winnipeg.
When I don't know if I've been to the mall in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
But we have been to Sydney.
Yes.
We stayed there for like a weekend, didn't we?
Yeah.
Jagmeet gonna get Jag beat.
Overall here, just looking at
Mon
this,
Dieu.
let's see. That's not the running one to look at. Brandon East, where is that going? Oh, looks like the NDP are actually gaining some ground there, maybe. We'll see as that continues. Dauphin is super narrow, but again, 41 more polls in. And so far, Winnipeg itself is kind of looking the way I expected, though Dugault Lamont is doing worse than I expected so far, and surprisingly, John Gerard is losing with only 10 precincts left, so he might actually lose his seat, which would be quite the upset, actually. Though Tyndall Park up here with Cindy Lamoureux, that's not surprising. We're going to mute CBC
Wobbly
again.
Canoe.
In case you're wondering, I have to mute CBC every now
Oh,
and then. or
that
else...
is Canoe. Look at that. Oh,
What?
no. Is that the guy that has all the domestic violence charges against him?
Yes.
Oh, good. And they voted for him anyway. Fantastic.
This is what happens when you run a bad campaign.
That's rough. He's got like 12 or something, like, violent criminal charges against him. Like, they're not even minor.
Yeah.
It's like more than 10, I think.
How the heck is Morden Wrinkler not had a single precinct report yet? How many voters are here? For those at home, Turtle Mountain, we still have Keystone Party in second place. Interestingly enough.
Oh, Tom, I like that idea. Tom recommends that we force all leaders to run in the same riding, but it randomly changes every cycle. Imagine, one year just they roll the dice and it's South Shore St. Margaret's.
That'd be
Pretty
hilarious.
sure he was pardoned. Was he pardoned for like all 15 of them? Because some of them aren't even done yet, and you can't be pardoned until you're convicted.
Yeah, I don't know all the details about that. I haven't followed the criminal convictions too much because I mostly follow election-related things that seem to matter, and that never seemed to matter, so I never really looked up into it. It did not seem to be affecting people's vote choices. The PCs were hammering on about it, but it didn't seem to have any effect, if that makes sense.
Oh, bad campaign. See, this is a moral of a story. Like, people really don't win elections, people just lose elections.
Yes, you're not wrong. At the entire time, I've said this for a while now. negative campaigns don't really work. And the PC campaign was basically just a negative campaign. People think they work. People like that, for some reason, like to think they work, but they don't. And the general reason really is people don't vote for against things. People vote for things. When people are voting against someone, you see very, very low turnout. On the other hand, for example, 2011 in Canada was a very negative election, and the turnout was awful, basically non-existent. 2015, people were proactively voting for Trudeau, and turnout was extremely high. That's kind of the gist is negative campaigning just reduces turnout. That seems to be all it does.
Pardons as a thing are wild. Never even heard of one being issued in either country I grew up in, but out here it seems regular. Funny, I've never learned about pardons. And for those of you who this might be your first stream, I'm a law student. I'm a third-year law student. Somehow I've never learned about pardons. So I really don't know how it works. I don't know what you need to meet to, like, get a pardon. I don't know if they're called that here. I think they're called, like, record suspensions or something.
I think they're called pardons.
But you can apply for them. Like, they don't... You have to apply for them and... No, this is different. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how pardons work at all, so I really can't comment on that, but it's... You don't hear about them much, but it could just be that they happen a lot and just kind of behind the scenes.
I think it's that... It seems like there's just lots of pardons that happen.
Interesting. That's dumb. No wonder we have a completely non-functional justice system.
Well...
Greetings from Northern BC, says Sethron. The federal NDP is a joke right now. They can only dream of getting the same support as the provincial parties. Call me crazy, but I'm a BC NDP/CPC voter. That is interesting. What's the reasoning behind that? Is it because the PC runs shit campaigns? Because, like, okay, so I can definitely see where you're coming from, because I really hate the Nova Scotia PC right now, but I don't know who else I could vote for. I might just have to not vote for anybody next time, honestly, because Tim Houston is on my frickin' nerves, and I hate him a lot. And Chris finally came around to that after much criticism from me. I am going to Dalhousie Law School. It's the only one in Nova Scotia. Now, please don't report me to my school.
I think I can see someone being a BC NDP voter / or federal conservative voter. That doesn't actually seem that unreasonable to me.
I could
because,
see it as, like, the alternatives are just worse.
Like, the BCU, our famous, glorious soccer club, doesn't stand for anything. They have no principles, they have no values, they're basically just a worthless party.
Oh, hang on.
What?
CBC's talking about parental rights in schools, and they've got a trans person talking.
Since Wab actually became leader, so yeah.
I might have missed it.
A lot, I think. I don't know. I'm just like, honestly, just trans healthcare and trans rights and
trans healthcare and trans rights and trans youth are at stake.
I will just, on YouTube censor reasons, just caution your commentary. YouTube doesn't like this.
Did you mute me?
No.
Did he mute me?
I did not mute you. But YouTube
I just repeated what he said.
YouTube doesn't like talking about that topic.
What that person said?
Oh
no. Oh, Lang, don't do that. Oh no. Oh, I should have laughed.
That's savage.
That's awful. Oh, that's...
Oh. I'm gonna caution I'm gonna caution chat about that too, because YouTube really doesn't like that.
Christopher.
What?
Is McCrossan running provincially or federally?
Provincially.
Is she running independent?
She is an independent.
She did. Then we do have a good independent. Macross in
That's why
space.
to me it's so important to
Literally all I know about her was
make
the
sure
"you're not
we're
Macross in
strong,
this
our
border"
people are
incident, and
strong,
I love her
our
for that.
focus is
That was hilarious. I don't.
You're looking at the results right now. How
Her
Nobody
name.
can tell me God's not real when shit like that happens.
Her
Okay,
name
like
was.
that's amazing.
Her name was
Absolutely
perfect.
confident. But at the same time, too, it's just like, we have to wait and see. But as of right
Well,
now, I'm in
it's looking like
thank you so much.
the NDP are now leading and are elected in 27, according to CBC, and I think they're correct on this one. And I'm expecting them to win.
Thank you very much.
And a lot of the ones that are left here, like Assiniboia, Notre Dame, Concordia, are probably going to go NDP.
Has a very tight lead over Rontas.
Pass, Kimisak, and Kiwanatuq are going to go NDP. So this is looking like it's pretty done deal here. Though we're not going to quite sign off yet because eventually at some point Wyatt Claypool is supposed to join on with, but he is running late, so we'll keep going for a little bit longer. See if his a little bit late doesn't turn into entirely late, but we'll see. I asked him at the last possible minute because I was sick last week, so I don't blame him.
Yeah,
If
we
he,
can't hold it against
I'm
him.
not gonna hold anything against him, but we'll see.
Didn't you ask him like literally yesterday?
Yes, I asked him literally last night because I was sick
Poor
last
Wyatt.
week. I mean,
Giving him no chance. No chance. Okay, shout out to the Liberals having literally one seat.
I will just note here, River Heights, 10 polls still to go, but the Liberals are down 7 points here. This is a pretty big upset if this happens.
In this province, let's go to Thompson and see there that Eric
What could be
Redhead
happening in
leads
this province?
ahead by
Says the
536
CBC
votes.
host.
No real surprise there.
No, and this was Steve
Seats to come,
Ashton's
6.
constituency
Oh,
for many
Liberals
years
still
when
at a
he was
strong
prominent,
1.
Cabinet Minister Eric Redhead has held this seat for a couple of elections now. Eric.
We're going to mute CBC again. I also occasionally mute CBC, not necessarily because I'm not saying anything of value, just because in the past I've gotten actual copyright strikes from, not strikes, but notices from people for playing audio for too long.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more cautious about that now.
So thoughts on the motion to vacate in the U.S.
I
the
haven't.
speaker thing.
Yeah, I haven't followed the speaker stuff too closely in the U.S. or really
I'm
what
cracking the fuck up about it.
or what
I
the
think
U.S.
It's hilarious.
or what the U.S. House has been up to, but I'm not surprised because
So here's why it's hilarious. Okay, can I just break
Sure.
into this because I have been kind of following it. I've been following it by virtue of the fact that all the podcasts I listen to talk about it. So if that counts as following it, but the vote wasn't actually supposed to pass. So some Republican, I forget which one, starts this vote to boot the speaker, right? With the expectation, because the Republicans on their own don't have the votes to actually boot him on the Republicans on their own don't have the votes to keep him. Because not enough of the Republicans like him to keep him. So in order for him to keep his seat, a bunch of Democrats are going to have to support him for him to keep his seat, right? And the guy that made the motion to boot him, whose name I'm forgetting, expected that the vote would not pass because he would have enough Democrat support that he would stay in power. And the whole point was to make a show of the fact that Democrats are supporting this speaker and that he's more on the Democrat side than on the Republican side. That was the whole point. It was just to make a point with this vote that the speaker is more supported by Democrats than he is by Republicans. But then they put the vote in, and the vote fucking passes, and don't they boot the speaker, and oh my goodness, it's funny. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. It's so good. He actually booted it, which is not a bad outcome, but nobody thought it was gonna happen. It wasn't even supposed to happen. Sucks to suck. Everybody hated him. And I got home today, and my mother was telling me, did you hear about the Speaker of the House in the States? Because I heard about it because they interrupted Judge Judy. She was watching Judge Judy in Nova Scotia. And they interrupt the program with emergency news that the Speaker of the House got ousted. Which, by the way, since then is that, emergency news broadcast, interrupt your program worthy news. I thought that was for when there's a tornado coming to your house in 20 minutes, that's stupid.
I don't know.
Let me get back to Judge.
A motion to vote to vacate, that's like a tornado.
Oh, who cares? But but my parents are grilling my brother and I on this. Like, did you hear about this? Like, why would this happen? Can they do that? And they're acting like this is this big, huge upset, because, they don't know, right? They don't follow these things that closely, and why would they? They're Canadians. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that surprising. They're like, well, why did this happen? I was like, everybody hates him. Like, really? It's like, yeah, they all hated him when they put him in, and they still hate him now, and that's why they put him. Like, everybody hated him. They've always hated him, and it's not surprising that he's gone. Like, it's kind of a big deal, but it's not a surprise. Oh, it's so good. First time in America's history that happened. Like, I guess that's significant, but I don't know. I'm not that impressed because it's so not surprising. Ever since Buddy came in on, like, an emergency basis, mind you. Like, wasn't he, like, an interim speaker or something? Like, it wasn't a full term. He came in after Pelosi, didn't he?
Yeah. No, the NDP. No. What happened there is the U.S. House only has 2-year terms, and 2022 was a House election, and the Republicans won the House election. Mm-hmm. So then they elected McCarthy, and McCarthy was originally planning on winning, or was expecting to win like 240 or 250 seats, so he could just ignore Matt Gaetz's crew. But they only won just enough seats that they need Matt Gaetz's crew in order for the Republican speaker to win. And McCarthy never wanted to play nice with Matt Gaetz's crew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then they pressure him to, as one of his conditions to be the speaker. They made him make a lot of concessions, and one of them was that it would only take one person to launch a vote to oust him as speaker, which was specifically for this guy, and he fucking did it. It's so funny. Sethron says, I'm in the federal seat of Skeena Bulkley Valley. Our NDP MP Taylor Baccarat is actually great, but I cannot support the NDP when they continue to back the PM for no reason. I know that's off topic, but I know that's a topic you enjoy, Chris.
Yep. The federal NDP under Singh have just been worthless. Absolutely worthless. They don't. Well, no, they're not getting
the worst for everybody.
They're not getting anything for this. They're backing Trudeau unconditionally for nothing. They're not.
I want you guys to know that we drove to Quebec City, and that's like a 12-hour drive, and we must have spent 2 hours talking about this.
It's a 10-hour drive. It's 12 hours to Montreal.
Excuse me. Continue.
Yeah, he doesn't get anything for his total and utter support to Trudeau. And it's not like the current government is particularly good for Canadians. Trudeau's objectively not doing good on any measure. But he unconditionally supports him for nothing. Nothing.
Singh was like, let me sacrifice my principles for nothing in return.
And at best, some NDP partisans on like Twitter will say, oh, but we got the dental thing. And it's like, but the Liberals already wanted to do a dental thing. Like, they already campaigned on that.
Dental's cringe anyway. But I realize that that's something that they're into.
And it's not even a very ambitious dental plan either. It's basically just helicopter checks to some people who can't afford to go to the dentist otherwise.
And yet I expect it'll still have terrible effects on...
because they don't actually make sure that you spend the money on dentistry.
Wait, did they actually just send you money?
They just send you money.
That's hilarious. Oh, NDP has a majority.
Yeah. Everything is so far roughly as expected here. Midland's probably going to go PC. Oh, Dauphin has swung back. But it's razor thin in Dauphin, and there's still 34 more seats, so it doesn't really say any polls, so it doesn't really say anything.
Lang Wrangler says, another BCer here. I live near Jagmeet's riding. He's more irrelevant than the Greens right now, and that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Doesn't he not live there?
No, he carpetbagged famously because he's from he's from India technically, but I think he.
Was he actually born in India?
I'm not
you have to be born in Canada to be a
politician here? That's completely irrelevant, being born here.
Oh,
he might have been born here, I'm not 100% certain. His family, I'm still pretty sure he wasn't born in Canada, but I could be wrong. if anyone in the chat knows, you can correct me. But that's not particularly relevant because he's from, like, his family lives in Brampton, Ontario. His brother's a politician in Brampton, Ontario.
Oh,
And then
of course he's from fucking Ontario.
And then he moved all the way over to a seat in Vancouver to try to win. Well,
That's pretty much as far away from Ontario as he could get.
Jared Walsh, I don't think Stefansson isn't that much of a threat for losing her own seat yet. There's still 22 more polls in, and a 33 seat or vote lead. Not saying much at that
born
distance.
In Scarborough. Okay, fair enough.
I might have been slightly wrong, but the same general area.
When you Google him, he shows up in a hot pink turban.
I will say, I do get a kick out of the fact that he stylizes his turban. That's hilarious.
I mean, if you're gonna wear one every day, you should mix it up, I guess.
Yeah. It's just not something that's ever occurred to me until
It's kind of interesting, though, because it's like, it's a different shape than, like, every other person that wears a turban I've ever seen. It's, like, tall and vertical, and normally they're kind of wide, with, like, the kind of depression in the middle. But his is, like, tall and kind of rounded, and I've never seen anyone else wear it like he does. It's like it takes a while to put on. That was a small, small detour into the turban fashion of Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah, up to 35 NDP seats is definitely possible right now, though I suspect 32 is probably the realistic ceiling. Because again, I don't think Tuxedo will flip, and I also think Defend is still gonna go PC at the end. There's still 34 more polls there.
Do you remember back in the day in, like, university, when we were sad that Jagmeet was such an idiot because he was such a good speaker? And now here he is.
He is a good speaker.
Is he anymore? He kind of puts his foot in his mouth all the time now.
Well, the problem is...
Because his bad ideas are becoming really hard to
Well,
ignore.
no. The problem Singh has, speaking-wise, is in 2019, he actually was standing for something, and now he's pretty much given up. It seems like he's just trying to stay relevant in the news.
He's from the Tall Turban tribe. Oh no. Singh is probably actually a pretty good person, just an abysmal leader. I'm gonna push back on that because I don't know someone who's sacrificing all of their principles just to do whatever Trudeau says. To what end, I don't understand. Like, you're not getting anything for the country. You're not getting anything for your party. The best I can tell that he's getting is a pension. Like, you're sacrificing. You're not standing for any principles at all. Like, I'm judging your personal character.
Yeah, and
what do you think, Chris?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
I think Singh is actually a good guy and just a bad leader.
Probably not.
I don't. Well, first of all, I mean, you know, you could argue about the NDP in general, but I think that the shit with the Liberals, like, there's no principle that he seems to be upholding. He isn't getting anything for Canada or even the party. The best he seems to be getting is, like, a pension for himself, if that.
Wyatt Claypool's talked about this before, and I'm inclined to agree with him on it. I don't actually think he's really in it for the pension. I think he just wants to be, in the news.
That's a shit reason, too.
It's a worse reason, I think. I think the pension is more understandable. Who wouldn't want a gold-plated pension?
If you're not gonna stand up for any principles at all, then I'm gonna have to judge your personal character. Like, I don't think that you're, you know, maybe you can be, like, a nice guy to have a beer with or whatever, but I think you need to be a little bit better than that.
I'm generally of the opinion that I don't actually need my politicians to be quote-unquote nice people or the good person. They need to be morally correct, but that doesn't mean they have to be a person I want to have a beer with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't need to hang out with my politicians. It's good if they're personable, but they don't like need to be.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Pierre and you have the whole package, that's just a bonus.
On Quinn Brayton? Anyways, my pronunciation skills are awful, as I'm sure we're all aware. What do you think of the assertion that Jack Layton would have been PM after 2015 election had he not died? So that's a tricky one. And the reason why I say it's a tricky one is Trudeau does bring in a huge X factor for the Liberals. And he's the literally only reason why the party is competitive on a national level, as opposed to just select provinces where it's finished, or it's competitive. I'm not certain if he was going to lose, even if we had a Jack Layton. But what it is, I think, pretty safe to say, is Jack Layton likely would have done better than Mulcair, and it's very possible that in the correct swing of an election, we could have seen a Liberal minority, or maybe even a Conservative minority sneak out, depending. Provincially, the NDP already is looking at a majority government. They need 29 seats for majority, and they're at 31.
Yeah, they're fine. And the Libs are still at 1. Poor Libs.
DJK217, yes. Trudeau is the Liberal Party. His brand is the Liberal Party. That's why I'm strong. I think everyone saying the Liberals should pick a different leader is high on their own supply. It's not going to do anything.
If Trudeau dropped dead today, the Liberal Party would die.
Yeah.
There is nobody that could continue it after him. They need to rebrand or something. Like, there is no Liberal Party without Trudeau.
Well, the problem is Trudeau has done a very destructive leadership style. He basically made sure that there would be no successors. He didn't groom any successors. He did the classic dictator move, and he didn't let anyone get groomed for successor, because if he had a groomed successor, they could backstab him and overthrow him.
And but he's also, like, he is synonymous with the Liberals. Like, there is no Liberal Party without Trudeau anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he's gone, the party's dead.
Yeah.
Pierre wins, and it's Conservatives forever, baby. Let's go.
I think there is a very reasonable projection, a very reasonable idea that going forward, the Canadian political spectrum is going to be looking things like Manitoba here. We're going to have an NDP that occasionally wins, a Conservative Party that occasionally wins, and a Liberal Party that, if it exists, is going to just have random arbitrary sections of seats, carried entirely by local incumbents.
I am going to be right back.
The NDP vote thus far tonight is amazingly efficient. They only have a 2.3 point election margin here. Now, again, a lot of these things... Why is this computer being... My computer is not responding. That's awkward. Well, anyways, well, my computer figures itself out. Okay, now it's cooperating again. Boy, is this being laggy. Well, we're going to ignore that for now, then. As you can see here, though, again, we're not too far off so far. There's a couple of rural seats that are going to be weird, but it is what it is. With so few polls in this election, I was not confident at all in my projection to begin with. So I'm not too bad or upset about anything going on right now. And yes, Jared Walsh, Dougald Lamont is probably in great pain right now. Not only is he himself set to lose St. Boniface, and with 19 polls left, so there's some potential there, but the NDP do have a pretty big lead opening up. But River Heights is going to 9 more polls there, and a 4-point lead for the NDP. That's pretty big. Yeah, Nick Mikakovsky. I think a lot of people did have buyer's remorse by 2019 from voting out Harper, or by 2019 from voting out Harper. The issue there a lot of people had is Scheer wasn't a very good candidate. He didn't, and I don't think it's because Scheer's a bad politician. I think he was definitely just overcoached. There is a very big problem in politics where people let themselves get coached past the point of being themselves. And being yourself is always more important, and as a politician, than being like flawless or being super nice. It's better to be yourself than it is to be a people pleaser. Because people will sense the fakeness, and then they won't like you. But she got coached out of that, which was an unfortunate disaster for him. Is there a Communist Party in Lamont's seat? That's hilarious.
Ooh, Trudeau's a flight risk, you say, Graham. Let's hope that's true.
I would not be surprised, Graham, if Trudeau does a Brian Mulroney on the Liberal Party, resigns like spring 2025 or winter 2025. They elect probably Chrystia Freeland. She goes into the election, gets utterly destroyed, walks away with like 2 seats. I would not be surprised. Not at all. Well, the number of votes actually counted so far is abysmal. But at the same token, we're looking at a bunch of ridings in Winnipeg that are now approaching what I would call unlikely to overturn margins. We look here, only 8 precincts, still 8 precincts left, but we have a 5-point lead in places like Waverley.
Campaign was Trudeau bad, and that doesn't work. You're probably right. I feel like that could work a little bit better today, but that's what a lot of people are accusing Pierre of running, is like too negative of a campaign. But everybody accusing Pierre of running a negative campaign hasn't watched any of his campaign material. New Canada Future Party has any chance for seats. What the heck is the Future Party?
You're not on the Twitter, so you're on the Twitter.
I am not in election Twitter.
You're not on election Twitter. So Canada Future is this glorious idea of a party that's created by a former failed, like complete failure of a Conservative Party leadership candidate, Rick Pearson, and Dominic Carty, a former Nova Scotia NDP member who became a New Brunswick NDP MP, who then became a Nova Scotia PC MLA, who then resigned the party to become an independent. Those two have created this party. It's supposed to be a centrist party because the right has lost its morals or something like that. It's absolutely hysterical to me. And no, I don't think it's going to do anything of any value.
Sorry, Twitter's a terrible place. I opened Twitter to look, and I don't know why, and now I'm witnessing a stabbing. That's great. Thanks, Twitter.
See, this is one place where I think we need more censorship. I don't think you should be able to put graphic videos of stabbings or, like, porn on things like Twitter. That should be banned.
Twitter's content regulations are Wild West.
Yeah, Jared Walsh, I'm not surprised that Fournier's called it. This looks pretty done to me, other than the fact that the total number of votes counted is pretty small, but every single lead and every single riding looks pretty solid. I would be very surprised if we see anything go at this point. At this point, in my mind, the election is probably done. It's just a matter of the votes being counted. I don't think it's going to be much of a surprise.
DJ 217, Scheer and O'Toole were certainly out of touch. Oh my goodness, were they ever. Pierre's definitely a lot more in touch, and it helps that he's actually visiting people and
Yeah.
going to places and talking to people. Like, that's how he remains in touch, I would imagine. Sheer was just like, I don't know, he was like kind of a shrinking violet. Like, there just wasn't much to him, and then O'Toole was a wet napkin of a man.
Well, one of the big issues Sheer has is I think Sheer has the right morals, generally speaking, and the right ideas, but he's not a leader. Like, that's the most important thing when you are selecting someone in a leadership race, and the biggest mistake the CPC did. Well, they didn't really have a good field in 2017, to be honest. But picking a good leader is more important than basically anything else, and it's hard to pick a good leader. They finally found one in Pierre. He seems to be a very strong leader. I mean, we're looking at plus 12 conservative poll leads, so obviously he's a pretty good leader. That doesn't happen otherwise, no matter how much liberals on the internet are like coping about it. Like, it's not a coincidence that the Conservatives have opened up a big lead now.
Heather Stefanson is trending on Twitter.
I mean, Stefanson is toast. I mean, she might win her seat here. I expect she will. That is one of the more safe seats in Winnipeg for the PCs. But there's no way she's going to be able to maintain her premiership. Or not, sorry, the leadership of the PC party after this. They're going to make her resign, either through back doors or her own honor. I hope she does the honorable thing and resigns of her own accord. After leading a decisive, devastating loss like this, you shouldn't be able to run a second campaign. It's one thing if you are the party that's not in power and you fail to win power. It's another thing if you are in power and you get crushed. James Mesher, I do agree with you. I think Scheer was the better choice than Bernier's 2017 campaign, which was hilariously socially liberal, for considering how he's positioning himself now.
I don't know what his deal is. He seems to kind of like put his finger up and see what people like, and then just go that way.
He doesn't seem. His biggest problem is he's not the flag bearer for a NatCon party, because he's not a NatCon.
Well, he's a libertarian.
Yeah.
And most people grow out of their libertarianism by the time they turn 20.
Yep. But he's he's trying to run a national conservative party as a person who's a libertarian, so he's just, anyone who is actually nationally conservative inclined just sees him as super awkward. And it's the people who really like Bernier on Twitter, and I don't fault them for this, but they're libertarian types. They might be more conservative libertarians, but they're still libertarians.
I would be the type of progressive to have voted for O'Toole in 2021 if I was Canadian. Yeah, that's why the Conservatives booted him.
That's
a very good summary of why the Conservatives booted him.
I'm not saying you're wrong in your own opinion there of what you would do, because obviously you're the only one who can say that. Not applicable, but I'm a bit skeptical of that, because a lot of people are like, oh, I would have voted for O'Toole. And it's like, would you?
I wouldn't. Well, I probably did painfully, but, so I wasn't voting for fucking Trudeau.
Yeah.
I'd vote for a house plan over Trudeau.
I regretted my vote for O'Toole.
I mean, would you have preferred to vote for Trudeau and then be part of the problem?
No. I personally liked the MP in the candidate in my riding, so I don't regret voting for her, but...
Another reason that the Westminster system's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I hate the British. Exhibit B. I don't know why we don't switch to an American way of doing things.
You hate the British, you hate the French.
Yes, I do. I hate the British and the French. There's no one left in Canada for me.
Who do you like?
I like the immigrant Russians. They're pretty cool. But what am I saying? Yeah, you can. The fact that you're voting for two people at once, I don't know how this never crossed anybody's mind as being ridiculously dumb. Like, y'all, you're voting for two people at once, but you might like one and not the other. How does that work? Like, if local control over politics means anything to you, you shouldn't appreciate this. And if having a say in the national government means anything to you, you shouldn't like this either. Like, you have to forsake one for the other.
Well,
And
see,
everyone's always forsaking their MP.
this is my personally most conservative position, probably. And it may be a spicy take, but the problem isn't that the PM and MPs are in the same ballot. I've changed my mind on this. I've said this before in an older video. The problem isn't that. The problem is that we have a prime minister anyways. Just put King Charles in charge. What could go wrong?
Angloid and Frenchy haters represent. Thank you, exactly.
Ironically, Lexie doesn't like the Anglos or the Frenchies, but I actually really like both the Anglos and the Frenchies.
I unironically hate the English and the French. Especially fucking British. Oh my goodness. You think I'm joking.
She hates...
But, I hate them. But Chris actually does like both the English and the French, and I don't know why. Especially the French. The French really perplexes me. Now, after being in Quebec City, they're growing on me, but I'm still not there yet.
I am what you would call a Francophile. I'm really interested in French history. It's really neat.
It's extra funny because, I don't know, if I was to do a DNA test or something, my two biggest chunks would be English and French, and I still don't like it. If Pierre lost the leadership race to Charest and Pierre took over the People's Party or founded his own party, what would the political landscape look like? I don't think people would follow him, because Charest was not good. Charest is a red Tory. And the Conservatives were not going to take that again after O'Toole. Like, you saw... Because first of all, Pierre losing that election was never going to happen. Like, he won by how... Like, he won, like, what, 60-something%
70.
on a field of, like, 4 people? It was 70? It was ridiculous. Like, absolutely chombled them. Trashed them. Like, it wasn't going to happen. So, if that's any indication, the Conservative Party was not going to tolerate another another O'Toole-style squishy dude in the leadership place. So if, like, he wasn't gonna win. Now, if somehow they had, like, ousted him or something that he couldn't run, I think people would have followed him, and I think that's why they didn't do that.
So...
What do you think, Chris?
There was actually an interesting little moment that was going to happen. We've pretty much given up talking about Manitoba here because it seems to be done and dusted here. But there was a little interesting thing in winter 2021-2022 where the rumor mills of Parliament Hill had it that O'Toole was going to kick out Poilievre from the party because he was insubordinate and was undermining caucus support.
Based?
It just so happens that at that time, in January 2022, a certain event happened. And O'Toole got cooed by Poilievre instead of the other way around. But in the world where the Freedom Convoy didn't happen and O'Toole actually kicked out Poilievre, that did happen. What I think you would have seen, because for the record, if Poilievre's in the party, he wins the leadership race. There's no possible scenario where he doesn't win that leadership race. There's no other person who has any possibility of winning that race if he's in it. So the only way he's not the leader of the Conservative Party is he's kicked out. And if that does happen, he probably crosses the floor to the PPC or maybe makes his own party. He doesn't stay as an
He'd probably
independent.
make his own, because I don't think the PPC jives with him.
No, I don't think it does either.
And Bernier is like really weird. Like, doesn't he not want people around that aren't like exactly like him or something like that? I feel like I've heard that before. I might be talking nonsense, but
I don't know. I'm not
yeah.
super versed in the
I think
PPC internal politics, but the general gist is Poilievre frankly, I think probably would have started his own party, and we would be seeing a very divided right. But it wouldn't be that divided for long. It might allow Trudeau to win one more election, but I think the rump Conservative Party would just disappear pretty quickly.
Oh, this is interesting. So, not applicable. I consider voting for Poilievre, but I'm not sure I could do so in good conscience given my environmental views. Probably just not vote or protest vote for someone irrelevant if I was Canadian in 2025. You're Australian, I think. Is that right? So, in Canada, fun fact, environment shit does not matter. Like, here's the thing you need to understand about Canada. I would be very comfortable speculating that about 95% of this country is covered with trees. Like, that nobody lives in. Like, we are not producing carbon in this world. Nothing that Canada does with oh, there's an acceptance speech. Do we care?
Share a message.
Christopher?
I'll share a message I got
Well, looking at it.
There's CBC, someone's giving a speech. Do we give a shit?
It's Doug Lamont. He's resigning.
Oh, who cares? What was I saying? Yeah, so these environmental measures that Trudeau puts in they're just for show. Like, they're just for show for the university students that vote for him. That he's dragging over from the NDP. They don't do anything. They actively hurt the country because they are instituting these really onerous carbon taxes that are choking the shit out of provinces like Nova Scotia right now, which has been turning the Maritimes progressively blue in like a historic shift. And it's getting so bad that regular people that are not politically involved are complaining about it, just in casual conversation, unprompted, which is wild for a political issue. And, like, in a country that basically all we have is natural resources, artificially clamping down on using those natural resources, it helps nobody and it just hurts people. You know, they close paper mills and it kills entire towns kind of thing. Like, it's a very dependent country on these resources and extracting them and using them. And so all these environmental policies, they don't do anything to begin with and they actively hurt people. So, environmental stuff, like the environmental posturing that the Liberals do in Canada, understand that it makes no sense when you understand the situation here. Theoretical situation where there's an odd number of federal seats and a two-party system in Canada, with a majority by one seat. What would happen if an MP resigned and the by-election flipped? That's complicated.
So Quinn, the short answer to that question is nothing changes until a non-conference vote happens. If a non-conference vote occurs, then it's up to the Governor General to decide. The Governor General is in their right to just give the opposition party, who now controls a majority of the House, to form government, but the Governor General could also just call a new election. There's never been a case like that, so I'm not sure there's no established precedent, because it's never happened. But if it did, it'd probably be a fun little thing.
Environmental regulations. Natural carbon emissions are generally approximately balanced out by natural greenhouse gas emissions, given that water vapor is a greenhouse gas. I'm not 100% sure what you're getting across there. But we're not like carbon neutral, we're like carbon negative. Because what you gotta understand is that we have a country that is covered in trees, and trees eat carbon. Like, the entire country of Canada is a worldwide carbon sink.
Yeah, I'll just add...
And we have nobody fucking living here.
I will just add in relation to carbon policy. the carbon tax itself doesn't, in Canada, if it's just Canada being affected by it, doesn't meaningfully do anything. Carbon tax, like
Except for raise the price of gas by 30 cents.
Economists are pretty clear that a carbon tax in a closed system works. That Canada's not a closed system. We have extensive international trade relations. And as long as we have extensive international trade and we have plenty of free trade agreements, so there'll be plenty of companies who can pick up any slack caused by reducing domestic production. So a carbon tax will increase manufacturing costs here and production costs here, mining costs here. So those things will just go overseas to a different country to do them, and they won't be reduced here.
And then we import the oil fucking anyway. Oh, it kills me.
Yeah.
Oh, it kills me. We import oil in Canada. Do you know how much oil we have in Canada?
One of the things that's really important to know when you're looking at economic theories that people are saying is that the economic theories are almost always couched in a closed economy, because in an open economy, it's so difficult. And yes, I understand, applicable, that you're very disadvantaged in this conversation because I'm.
Yeah, you're also talking to someone that doesn't give a shit about climate change, so that doesn't help. I was trying to be charitable, but like I don't care. But yeah, no, it's an especially weird thing to do in Canada, is what I'm trying to get across. Because like, understand, like you drive through like New Brunswick. If you look at a map of Canada, see how small New Brunswick is, right? Compared to the rest of Canada. We drove through all of New Brunswick when we were driving to Quebec. You could drive through half of Nova Scotia and all of New Brunswick and be looking at nothing but trees the entire time. Like, there is nothing but trees in this country. I'm not worried about the environment. I'm sorry. Like, it's just a weird argument to make. Not your argument, but like the climate stuff is weird to campaign on in Canada, which is why Pierre, I think, is really smart not to bend to it, especially since these climate thing is like, it's hard to emphasize adequately how harmful they have been to regular Canadians. It is really, really hurting people. Like, gas is getting extremely expensive. Gas is $1.75 a liter right now, and that went down like 10 cents last week. It's been $1.84 for like a month, and all of a sudden it went down by 10 cents, and I don't know why, and I'm kind of nervous about it. I don't know what heating oil costs. It can't be much better. And, you know, these are provinces where people don't have an option just not to drive, right? Like, you know, I live... Where I live, I don't get to just choose to carpool or to take the bus to work or to school. Like, I have to drive. Everyone here has to drive. Like, you don't get the choice not to gas up your car. And you know, and it drives up the cost of everything else. Food is insane and getting more expensive every day. And that's just all from the carbon tax, let alone all these other things that they're doing, like closing. You know, there was a paper mill that they closed in, what was it, Pictou?
Yeah.
Which basically killed that town. And, you know, every time they do that, it's basically killing an entire settlement. Because people spring up around this industry. And then when it's gone, everybody leaves. And, you know, so much of our economy depends on resources. And, you know, we live in a cold place where we need gas. And it hurts us in more ways than I can even remember to describe. Because it's like, we're so used to it now that it's like, you don't remember that it's abnormally expensive. So it's just really bizarre to me that they still campaign on this stuff.
Dan Crowley.
Climate policy generally drives technological innovation. I'm not going to make you argue your point anymore in chat, because I realize that this is like not an optimal situation for you, but I would probably push back on that, but I'm not going to make you defend that.
Dan Crowley, just a comment there. I'm not... Maybe you know this.
A gallon is $3.33.
Maybe you know this. But we measure gas in liters here, so 175 is approximately like $7 a gallon. And
Yeah.
Nova
Is
Scotia
that
is relatively
Canadian or
cheap gas.
American?
That'd be 750 Canadian dollars. So it's even worse too, because the Canadian dollar is worth less than an American dollar.
So.
But
something you said? What'd you say?
What?
How many?
$7.50.
How many dollars for a gallon? $7.50. So that's $5.47 US per gallon.
Yeah, and not
that went down. It used to be 185. It's been 185ish for like a month.
And non-applicable there. Yeah, I'm definitely of the opinion that the best way to do anything is to just spend money on building nuclear power plants.
Yeah, but they're not gonna, so we gotta figure something else out.
Yeah. I didn't even know the Annapolis Valley had public transit.
Wait, the valley has buses? Excuse me?
I didn't even know. But
$2 in Ottawa, yikes.
On that note here, I'm gonna wrap this up here for the night. It looks like the election's basically over. We're just down to a few seats in like Brandon and maybe Dauphin who are in question, but the NDP have clearly won here. Even though they might lose the popular vote in the end, which will be hilarious if that does happen. But it's getting late. Everything seems to be closed up, and it's just a matter of finishing the final count. So we're going to wrap up here. So if you want to support the channel or support me, make sure you share the stream, share my other things, watch all the things, likes, all the comments and stuff. And if you want to join as a member, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week. We're going to do something, and I'm going to probably wait a week or two before I do a post-mortem for this. But we'll see. But with that, I bid you all adieu, and I will see you
Have a good night, guys.
in the future.